In a few moments, you will have an experience which will seem completely real. It will be the result of your subconscious fears transformed to your conscious awareness. You have 5 seconds to terminate this tape. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? Thanks for joining us for another BG-Cast Wednesday live podcast. We have a really awesome and special show lined up for you guys tonight. I actually honestly can't wait to dive in. But nonetheless, I want to take a second to thank all of the new followers and subscribers over on Rumble, YouTube, and X. Thank you so much for joining the BG-Cast family. Here where we learn together. That's right. We are in this strange, unknown, and uncharted territory for at least this current batch of humanity. And we're all just trying to figure it out. We're all just, wading through the waves, the spiritual tides that are coming in. And this is where we do it, guys. We do it together as a family, and we kind of all put our heads together and we look at what's in front of us and we digest it, we transmute it, and we move forward. So welcome to the channel, guys. But first, before we get to my two guests, I want to talk about my sponsors. And of course, you guys know how I feel about New Earth and the foundation for New Earth. And I know my guests feel this way too, which is really cool. So, and of course, hey, David, what's going on, man? You're just in time for your promo. But of course, this is how we start New Earth, guys. We start supporting people in our community. And we start supporting these homegrown businesses and these homegrown creators, these artists, these songwriters, these comedians, all in our community. And this is how we officially start to build the foundation for what's to come next. So the first one I want to talk about, of course, you guys know about Divine Creation Gifts. This is a homegrown metaphysics shop straight out of West Virginia, and you will get free shipping on orders over $50. But guys, check out some of these crystals. She has amazing stuff. And of course, we have apparel and merch. She has an herbal apothecary, ritual tools and supplies, crystals and jewelry. So yes, she's a fan of the show. So definitely head on over to Divine Creation Gifts and support her. Get some crystals from there, maybe some herbs, some supplies from her, as opposed to going to your big box ritual store. Yes, they do exist. I've seen them. They're starting to pop up here in Colorado, and they reek of pseudo spirituality, in my opinion. So yeah, definitely support a homegrown shop like that. And of course, we have the pioneer in New Earth entertainment, David the Lion. I can't give praises to David enough. He has officially pioneered New Earth entertainment, guys. And I am talking about psyop-free and propaganda-free entertainment. Guys, check out the comic book. It is available on Kindle, but if I were you, I would get the special edition issue. Like I said, it's sitting on my shelf. It's like too nice for me to open and read. I've read it on the Kindle though. So guys, I definitely want you guys to support David. Also check out Dear Lilith, I Love You. He won Best Director at a New York Film Festival for his short film. And he's actually been featured in some newspaper articles lately. I forgot which newspaper it was, but he was talking about how he was bringing spiritual archetypes back into comic books. So I think that's really cool. And guys, these comic books are kid friendly. They're family friendly. They're spiritually enriching. Okay. And like I said, you're not getting stuff that's packed with psyops and propaganda. So if you guys want to check out David, I have his link tree in both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions. And I also have Divine Creation Gifts in the Rumble and the YouTube description. So guys, let's get New Earth started. Let's support each other in this. And David just announced that he has 2 more film festivals coming up at the end of the month. That is awesome, dude. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. But nonetheless, you guys know how it is here on BG-Cast. you know how important I think healing is. And this is a difficult conversation, I guess, for a lot of people in our community to still have. It seems to be a thing of avoidance. We can talk about all the conspiracies all day long. We can talk about all of the esoteric and spiritual concepts all day long, but when it comes down to doing the real work that is going to help you ascend, not just in your consciousness, but ascend your entire being into a different frequency, the healing, the shadow work, the inner work, everybody seems to stray away from it. It's like a topic of contention. Nobody wants to talk about it. But we talk about it here, and we actually have something we're going to talk about tonight, which is really special. I think could really set not just our spiritual collective down the road to healing, but also our general collective as well. So I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm going to bring on first the spirit mom herself, okay, who actually is the inspiration for this and who has been diving really into this course. And of course, she's a great friend of mine. We've done many shows together in the past, and I am really happy about bringing her back on tonight. So let's welcome the spirit mom, Dyanna, Transcending Ascension, to the stage. What is up?
Hello, and thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. And of course, I cannot forget my next guest. She is of the Metaphysical Phat podcast. She is one half of the podcast. And she is also a very powerful healer herself. She is a very powerful psychic herself. And I am looking forward to having her on the show for the second time, uninterrupted. Let's bring Samantha Consciously to the stage. So, what is up, Sam? How's it going?
Hey, yeah, it's great to be back. Glad you're not on call, because that was a fuck, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a little bit of a shit fest, but of course I had to adapt. And that's why sometimes you'll see the shows on Tuesdays now as opposed to Wednesdays, because the Tuesday before I go on call, it's just more of a peace of mind for me, because like even after the show we had, Sam, I tried doing it on Wednesday for a couple more Wednesdays, and it's just like I feel like I couldn't relax. So I was like, you know what, we're gonna do it Tuesdays. But nonetheless, guys, let's break down into business. I'm looking forward to this. Now, you two and I have always felt how healing is very important. It is actually, at least in my opinion, one of the most important aspects of our spiritual evolution, because as we heal ourselves and we transmute the traumas throughout our life that we've experienced, the pain, the sadness, the anger, all of this stuff, what this does is this opens us up to the broader spectrum of higher consciousness. It is almost as if, we remove the weight of that 600-pound backpack that we've been carrying with us. But to me, it's like a lot of people still kind of want to carry this 600-pound backpack with them, it's like, to me, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, dude, life would be real awesome if you just got rid of that heavy backpack. So let's dive right into it, you guys. We'll start off with Dyanna. So Dyanna, in your own words, why is healing such an important aspect of our spiritual evolution, and why do you feel like so many people overlook this, or they try to bypass it, or they try to avoid it?
Well, that's like literally the totality of my teaching. So that's huge. But to say it easily, it's that the all is mind. So what do you want to create with? You're a creator being. Do you want to create with a broken machine, or do you want to create with a healed machine? And then the reason why there's so many blocks, because that's obvious. Like, that's what the course is going to be. That's what the course is. It makes it so simple. But when you read it in more of a victim mentality, it's so easy to be like, yeah, right. I'm so sure. If only this, such, and this, right? And full compassion for that, because we all have the victim archetype. Or Stephen once pointed out the worm, and that actually fits very well and it probably leaks because you also see the victim, the saboteur, the prostitute. And you can see in the worm all three of those like stirred together. So somebody that would be like the worm is somebody that's mixing all of those together into a beautiful spew of what the majority of humans end up being, at least in some avenue of their life. If you were some kind of people pleaser whatsoever, which I was, you're in this place too, because you have your obvious raging victims that make everybody know about it all the time. But you equally have like the martyr types that are people pleasers and that like inappropriately pop off or do things you don't even know about because it's like that much affecting them and they have that much of a shield. Because why is the ego in the way? Well, that's what the course is going to bring you through. And that's like an entire smorgasbord of why the ego is in your way. Ego is its own separate factor. It's why we have separation. You cannot kill it as long as you're human, but we can alter it. But you do also have entities feeding on you. But one thing I always say first and foremost is sovereign discernment and your own true alignment. Know thyself. Only you are the player here. There's no outside lowers or outside helpers that are going to be able to do it for you. Both can play their part in teaching you and helping, but ultimately it's always up to you. And that's what people don't like. And we've been brainwashed out of that. We've been brainwashed to, oh, help me, mommy, daddy. But like the good.
No, totally. I agree, Dyanna. It is. It's a lot of it. A lot of it is. It's we don't like looking at our shadow. That's ultimately what it is. I feel like a lot of it is. Oh, there you go. You're back. What were you saying?
That's okay. I pretty much rounded it off. Anything else would just be opening more doors because there's so many doors with this topic.
No, I know, and I'm looking forward to this. So Sam, let's get your take on this. Why do you feel healing is one of the most important aspects of our spiritual evolution, and why do you feel a lot of people bypass it and avoid it in your own eyes?
So for me, healing is everything. That is the conclusion that I've come to. Because when you heal, you, like Dyanna rightly said, you remove the distortions, because that's what we're in. We're in this holographic light show of reality, and everything that we see, like she very aptly points out with his mind, it's a protection of our internal structures. And when your internal structures aren't in a cohesive state of alignment, which means, if we think of reality being projected out as kind of like a fractal pattern that's fractaling out, if you've got a broken fractal within you, a broken geometric pattern, so for instance, like she mentioned, people pleasing, there's lots of other different things that we can have. Like I've got I've got like rejection, wounding, issues with abandonment, all that kind of stuff. They go really deep, but you're actually bringing things into your life that are aligned with that frequency and that broken pattern. So you're essentially living out of alignment. And what healing does is it cleans the distortions, like you rightly said. We're not carrying the stuff around with us, but it takes a lot of courage, like you said, to go into the shadow, because the shadow is just the stuff that's hidden and we can't see. Not necessarily always bad though, because we can have some good attributes sticking there as well. So not to them that always bad, but it takes a lot of dedication. It takes fucking years. It's depending on the level of trauma as well. And I know a lot of people come in here, the starseeds, whatever name you want to give to it, the divine emanations, we've got the soul spark. And we're here to create, we're creative beings. But what we also find is because it's such a dense reality, we end up collecting all this trauma, and it can, really derail us. And we've all come here with this mission, and this mission is, to make a difference. Well, it's going to look slightly different for everybody, but it's to be in service essentially. And this is kind of what the Course in Miracles goes into as well. It's all about service to God, because that's what you're doing. And when you're in service to God, you are in alignment. When you're in alignment, you are healed, you are whole. And that's the perfect package, and that's when you start to see changes and shifts in your life. And that is why healing for me is the most important thing.
I dig it. Both of you had very amazing and sound reasons behind all of that. And I completely agree with the both of you, because when you actually pursue it and you actually do it, you see it firsthand. You see the effects that it has on your, I would say, not just your consciousness, your entire being, your entire life. It's almost as if you see this new layer of existence just start to manifest before your eyes, this new perspective. And that is, walking out of, you guys were calling it the victim mentality. That's definitely a great way to put it. I'm actually going to borrow a term, as much as I don't want to borrow it from him, but he said it so well, from Sadhguru. There's two things going on right now. You have people who are just byproducts of creation, and then you have people who are being creators in creation. And ultimately, what that healing will do for you is it will take you from being a byproduct of creation into being that creator. And it's so funny to me, especially because we have all, I know everybody in the chat's doing the work, we're all doing the work here too, and you see it happen right before your eyes. And it's kind of funny too, because we look at our society and how addicted it is to instant gratification. And in a lot of ways, even though it's not necessarily instant, with the healing, if you put the work into it, you will see what I will call almost like these instantaneous results in your entire being, your entire life. It's just about taking that first initial small step into walking through that door and leaving the victim mentality behind, and taking your power back, because ultimately this is what this does for us. Is it helps us take our power back fully. It turns us into the discerning, sovereign human beings that we are all striving to be. It makes us, we're not able to be manipulated the way that we once were, when we go through this process, because we don't let our emotions rule us anymore. We feel them, we understand it, and we know that emotional factor that comes into play when it comes to manipulation, especially for stuff on the world stage, stuff in our society. So, alrighty, guys. So I have it pulled up here. So we're going to dive right into A Course in Miracles, and I'm just going to kind of go through a very, very brief description of what it is, just in case nobody's heard of it. So I'm going to pull it up real quick. Hey, Lee, how's it going, man? Thanks for being here, dude. So let me pull this up real quick. And of course, we're going to expand and elaborate. So, alrighty, guys, we have A Course in Miracles. So this is just the introduction. And so we have A Course in Miracles, often abbreviated ACIM, or simply called The Course, is a complete self-study spiritual thought system. As a 3-volume curriculum consisting of a text workbook for students and a manual for teachers, it teaches the way to universal love and peace, or remembering God, which is something, we're all doing here. You guys have heard me call this the great remembering so many times. And yes, at first we awaken, but then we remember. And this is something that can definitely help us on our path to remembering our divine spark, is by undoing guilt through forgiving others. The Course thus focuses on the healing of relationships and making them holy. A Course in Miracles also emphasizes that it is but one version of the universal curriculum, of which there are many thousands. Consequently, even though the language of the Course is that of traditional Christianity, it expresses a non-sectarian, non-denominational spirituality. A Course in Miracles, therefore, is a universal spiritual teaching, not a religion. And ultimately, that's exactly what we need right now, honestly, in my eyes, because one of the biggest parts of our healing journey is not just forgiving ourselves, but finding a way to forgive those who have caused us the trauma and who have done us harm throughout our lives. So I'm going to spin it off to Dyanna. Why do you feel so much promise in this course? And I definitely I understand why. I know why, but why don't you kind of lay it out for everybody here on the show, so they can get an understanding of it and maybe dive into it themselves.
See, that's the thing. It's like, I can't properly. It's that profound. And the deepest of truths are, like, when I read this book, I freaking shake. And my original ex, was A Course in Miracles. It was just me spewing A Course in Miracles and making memes for it, and was really focused on that teaching. And then magic sucked me back in again. It always does. But I'm back out and I'm back into the Course. And it's like, magic doesn't do that. Magic has that ego infused power, like we've been talking about, making servitors and all this, is all for the greater good, because still Christ consciousness. Because I always want to believe that you can empower the all is mind. We are all God. We are all God. Solipsism, sort of, but not quite, because God is that complicated. When people are like, solipsism isn't real, it's like, it is a little,
Mm.
but like God is so complex. You're so freaking layered. So the law of one, a lot of you probably already know. So it is the law of one. The power of now, a lot of you probably already know. It is the power of now. It is the New Testament, and specifically Jesus's words mostly, though it talks of some things that were skewed. Like, if you ever heard Jesus say anything remotely violent, that would be the stuff that's skewed. And it's just so, like, even right now, my heart is just thundering because this book is amazing. It's just, it is like the new, and when I used to talk about it, because I have a series where I went through 1 to 9, and then that's the thing is Sam and I are picking, and Kyla, our
Nice.
Spinja in the audience here, are picking it up tomorrow, the 17th. I'm the worst with
Okay.
dates. On Friday the 17th, did we name the time? Do we have a time? ADHD.
We are very professional. We do have a time, yes, Diana. I
Yes,
will remind you of that
time.
when we come up.
Okay, we have a time. It's, I think, 11. But anyways, we're going
Nice.
to just go jump right into less than 10 and just keep going. And I'm going to tell you, and I have a clip that's going to explain it. And it's like, because the Course in Miracles is so cheesy. It's so profound. You cannot put it into words. But in the same time, it's not toxic positivity. The first 30 days are, and I have this video of this guy that I'm going to put on the first episode of talking about how it's actually rock star, because it sounds a lot cheesy, but read the first month. First day is nothing matters. Everything you think is wrong. The past doesn't matter. Like, and it just like tears you apart. Like, you are nothing, because it's going to show you that everything you think that's not of pure love is distortion, because it goes on, and if you know Gnostic creation stories, they get really wild, but you can see the essence of it. And I always liked the philosophy in the anthropic principle. Like, you can go so far to think God got so separated in its entirety, it forgot. And that's what the ego is that forgetting part. But everything it creates is that distortion, and just simply being flesh is a distortion. And you could make arguments of planned distortion regardless, but what we can all agree on is we're done. Planned or not, we're over it. We're out. And this book is our exit manual.
I dig it. And no, and that's the thing too, is that, you know, the first 30 days it makes you face that. You know what I mean? It almost pushes you to be brave. You know what I mean? And of course, you know, we know the divine reciprocates bravery. Most certainly it does. And it reciprocates, you know, the willingness to move forward. Anytime you even just take that little tiny step, and I know we've talked about this on our numerous shows before, you know, it's just that little baby step. It could just be picking up in that book, you know, and starting that 30 days. That's a step in the right direction. So, and, you know, we do see how the divine actually loves us, wants us to remember, you know, and so when we put forth that step, it's like there to meet us. And, you know, and that's one of the things that I've really been liking about what I've been reading in this book is it shows it's showing you how to have the trust in the divine. It's showing you how to surrender to the divine, and knowing that God has your best interest in mind. God wants you to succeed, you know? So, and Sam, let's get your take on A Course in Miracles. Why do you feel like this could potentially really help heal our collective?
Oh, it's such a loaded question, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, I kind of fell into it. I'd heard about it on the grapevine over a couple of years ago, really, on and off, because I think if you're in the spiritual community, like Diana was saying, Law of One, all that kind of stuff, is it the Durantia and whatever, I can't pronounce it properly. Oh, there's loads of different like modalities, isn't there? And then there's obviously the Eastern traditions and the Western traditions and the religious traditions and all the rest of it. But this was actually channeled, which always kind of gets me like, where's this come from? And I'd just had it in my Audible library for ages. And full disclosure, like, I've not done the Course in Miracles. I'm just starting it with Diana. I've obviously read bits of it, and I'm aware I've done a bit of deep diving in the background of it. But I'm along for the ride. You know, my specific kind of, we'll say, niche is healing. So this is great for me. So what actually happened was, it was like a kind of series of divine synchronicities. And that's when I always know that it's for me, because it's literally, like you were saying, the divine is like, come on now. I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you this, this is going to come along. I mean, even to the point where we had a guest on Friday, didn't talk publicly about A Course in Miracles, and she was like, yeah, I do a Occult Study of Phat and blah, 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 and tarot cards, and and A Course in Miracles, and it was just like, get out, get the F out, do you know what I mean? So it's just like, neon lights were calling me. And when I've started digging into it, I had a lot of resistance, I'll be honest, because you do. And what it's actually doing is, which I've figured out, so it's building on the fundamental principles, really, of what we already know. So if we look at the things like, the Hermetics, which are basically the universal laws, aren't they, which underpin everything, that's the foundation. And what it's getting you to do is deprogram your beliefs and your ideas that you've got around what things should be. And Julia, who we had on Friday, was a great guest, by the way. She said essentially what it does is it's kind of giving you a new way to think. And what it's basically doing is asking you to trust yourself. And it talks about like this magic, which is like a lowest state, and then good being the highest state. And I really like that. It's all about alignment, basically. It's letting go of like the human, and there's nothing wrong with being human in the experience, but it's letting go of like the human programs and knowing that what we see is illusionary. So she kind of described it as being very like Zen Buddhism, because it's like nothing's real, but actually the illusion is still important. And that's the place that you get to, really.
I dig it. You brought up something very interesting. You brought up the resistance. And one of the things, because Dyanna said, the ego was forgetting, but the ego is also resistance. That is something that we will encounter when we approach a lot of this stuff that could really cause us to burst forth and remember even further and break into new layers, because the ego is when we talk about the ego, it's programmed to be in some ways a safety mechanism here. So like just how like when we have apprehensions before we embark on an entheogenic experience, that's because that's the ego going like, I'm about to die, I'm about to get killed, I'm about to get reformatted, and and you just got to be like, listen, ego, it's okay, I promise it's going to be fine, you're going to be okay on the other side, you always are, you're just tripping. But the same thing with this book. I mean, it gets you to think in a new way, and of course, we've talked about neuroplasticity so much in our shows together here, and opening up yourself towards a new way of thinking, a new perspective, actually is going to increase your neuroplasticity too. You're going to open yourself up so much more. And the other thing too I really like about this book, and Dyanna and I have our church on Sunday, and Sam will be joining us hopefully soon for the church, which will be really cool. It has a foundation in Christ. And we have talked about how Christ here supersedes the Christian religion. Like Christ is a way of being. Christ is a layer of this reality. Christ is an energy that we can all awaken within us. And the fact that this book has a foundation of Christ, it is that's what I see it as. It's like a foundation of Christ, but it's not being restricted by fundamentalism. It's open. It's allowing you to explore. And I know Dyanna and I have had this conversation before, and I'm actually going to recant what I said when she disagreed with me, because I actually agree with her now. I've been doing some reading. I do think having a foundation in Christ is essential before you do hop into the mysticism and before you do hop into the metaphysics. So, Dyanna, if you don't mind elaborating on why that is for everybody, and why that is an important thing, that would be awesome. Your mic.
Just go to Quora and just search like magic, and you'll see why people need Christ. Because yeah, you can learn about magic and do stuff, but even I have found repeatedly it's not the answer. I still enjoy searching it, and it still does things for me, like pattern shifting wise, as we were discussing. Like it breaks those paradigms. But ultimately, magic's not the answer. That's my ego. I just really enjoy it. But I still do it good because I had a foundation of Christ first, probably. I always go back and forth because my foundation in occultism was fictional for many years. But my faith in Christ wavered because I was raised atheist. So I thought Christ had come to me on its own, but still it wavered. It was not solidified until my adulthood. And that does something to you. You can clearly see the stark difference of life with Christ and life without Christ, and the way your thought patterns are. For one example, you're much quicker to go to nihilism, defeatism, defensism. You know what I mean? Like all of the that you just do not want is going to be found without Christ. Because with that, that's the one cheese of the book that I had my hard time wrapping my head around, even though like I had Jesus come get me like so many times, but I would repeatedly gaslight myself out of it. But like over the years,
So we'll hold it on over the years for her. But no, I completely agree with what she's saying so far, because there is a stark difference. I know what she was talking. A lot of people are okay. You're back. So all the years that Christ has come to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So all the times Christ came to me, then yeah, gone. So you just need Christ, and this.
Oh man. Okay. But no, like as I was saying, when we hold space for her real quick. But no, there's been an upsurge in people searching black magic. Oh, there you go. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're all good. Even David said, I guess I was right about too much awesome for the Matrix thing.
Yeah, I switched to my phone. So if they do it again, now I'm on my phone, and then they would be right about conspiracy, that's for sure. But yeah, you need Christ. It doesn't help your internet, I guess, but it just helps your soul. It helps your joy. It helps your bliss. It helps you not feel alone, because that's one thing I was starting to say earlier. That's a whole path that humanity is going to have to grow into. We're the trauma generations, because eventually, like, parents should not, like, it's not 18 and, oh, you're legal now, you're a legal adult, because it's all about paperwork and bureaucracy, and they strip you of your parents, and they strip you of your parents' authority. Not that you should really have authority, but like severe guidance and just over blanketing love that's just missing. It's just missing. And you see this in Rick and Morty. Like, Rick and Morty has this lesson in spades of how important that elder figure of guidance is between Rick and Morty, and in between Rick and his daughter, Rick and Summer, Rick and Jerry. Like, they show, because Rick is that godly figure. He even says it repeatedly, I am God. And it's just bringing that lesson home that we need that higher power. And it's always going to be God. But this serious surrendering we need to do. This is not dogma. This is not for life. This is not for this is to get through the trauma. And then you yourself will naturally be a Christ being, where I can't explain like how clean like everything usually feels. It does not mean things don't get in sometimes, but I know what it's like to feel like shit 24 hours a day, 24 fucking hours a day, to the point where you're like, why the fuck am I still alive? I get that. And you're just living to one numbing substance to the next, because it's your only spot of joy. You know what I mean? Like, I get that life. And then to find that you can actually discover it in something that is beyond. And that's not to say you still can't smoke weed or nicotine or whatever. I still do. And some people that have the odd drink, that's fine. I don't know if I trust myself. Not yet anyways, maybe. But that's my journey and my path, because every little part that you purify yourself, it's likewise met by that Christ space. And so it's like, and it's even more than like even, like, or it just feels so nice to have somebody help you to that degree, because it really does get to that relationship. And there's lots of other ways you can do it. I had Jesus moments before this book, but this book is the best path to it, like the most quickest assured way to get the job done, like of ascension, and to get that ball rolling.
I dig it. And real quick, because we were on the topic of Rick and Morty, there was that meme that was floating around about Rick Sanchez posting on Facebook. He's like, just give me one like and I'll blow up the Galactic Federation. And then he liked it himself and he goes, fair enough. All right. So, but Rick, please do that. If there's a real Rick out there, that needs to happen. But Sam, let's hop to you. What are your thoughts about having a foundation in Christ, or maybe understanding, or what are your words, what do you feel Christ is when it comes to our spiritual evolution? Let's roll with that.
I mean, I think mine and Diana's view on Christ is slightly different, which everybody's is going to be the same, isn't it? Because we come from our own experiences, our own lens, our own perception. I like Christ minus the dogma, basically. That's kind of where I am. So I was raised Catholic and also spiritualist and a bit of all sorts, really. So that, even from the get-go, taught me that there was such a large bandwidth of belief that nothing was absolutely 100% certain. But my own experiences, like my personal experiences with Christ, is that Christ is an energy, it's an archetype, it's like an emanation of the supreme good, I'm going to call it. And that's what touches you. Yeah. So I feel like that is the force that when you are in alignment with, it's just basically, it's like another aspect of good, isn't it? But it's more closer to the human experience. We can understand it more. Because when you kind of look at good, it's like this lofty, you know, especially from like a Christian point of view, it's this lofty man, he's in the clouds, he's looking down, he's wrathful, he's sending snakes and lizards and locusts and all that shit. I mean, we've got to be scared, and there's burning bushes and all sorts of drama. It's like EastEnders, but like biblical. And I just think you can't really relate to that. And that's not right anyway. And going back to Rick Sanchez, in my opinion, is a demiurge, but you know, whatever. That's kind of how I see him. But you know, he's a fun guy.
I agree.
This is, yeah, it's still an aspect of God, isn't it? So that's the thing with reality. It's God's playground, but it's how are you going to move through that, you know? And if you look at it, and it's not this simple, but if you look at it like a video game, you get the two paths, don't you? You know, are you going to go in the path of self-service? You're going to go in the path of service to others, you know, going back to the other one. It's not quite that cut and dry, but you can see where I'm going with that. And I feel like the Christ consciousness, because that's what it is. When you tap into that, it's like the moral framework that gives you the basis for how to live your life. And I think having that foundation, going back to touching about what Diana was talking about, magic. So magic in itself is just a force. We can all tap into it. It's just the ability to manipulate reality. But it isn't the highest expression of that, because good is the pure expression. But when you're tapping into that, because we're all tapping into it anyway, just naturally. And that's what miracles are. It's just the pure aspect of like magic, but it's like direct from God, and that's kind of what it teaches, isn't it? If you are gonna, you know, have a dabble in magic, the problem is if you studied in an occult order years and years and years ago, you were taught the moral framework of what you were doing, because everything has consequences. And there's so many occultists that I know, you know, because I went down that road a little bit as well. And you see that people get taken over by these entities, because even like magical orders, they've still got egregores and entities and all sorts of stuff that's attached to them. And you have to be really fucking well bounded in a sovereign. You have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for. You have to do the inner work. And this comes back to healing as well. If you've got any fucking wounding or distortion within you and you're like completely blind, what comes in? An nice ego, like a nice entity whispering in your ear, fluffing your ego up, saying, hey, let's do this. It's great. It's absolutely fine. And before you know it, you've completely fucked your life up, or you've let loads of stuff come through you, or you suddenly believe like that you are the almighty and that no, but you know, that you're better than everybody. And I've seen it like loads and loads of times. I'm not even talking shit. Like I've genuinely seen people go off the deep end, and it ruins their life. So that's why I would say like having a foundation, maybe not even in Jesus, because Jesus is an expression of that. It's one facet of the whole. But having some kind of connection to a higher power, a spiritual good, and knowing who you are and having this like ingrained moral framework is going to set you on the right path. Because at the end of the day, you know, The only person that you're accountable to ultimately is yourself. And that's the top and bottom of it, isn't it?
Completely agreed. Sam actually, she unintentionally binded someone in an occult order. We've talked about this before, but
Stop it.
it needed to happen, though. That
No,
one
it
did.
didn't.
No, I'm
No,
just kidding.
never bind anybody. Seriously, it'll fuck you up. Like, there's definitely repercussions. It was an accident. But yeah, go on, Stephen. We're gonna have a word with this little shit.
But no, I think, one of the biggest things I'm going to say too, like, going off both of your points here, I feel like you can't properly wield and understand magic without a foundation in Christ. I mean, kind of talking about what Dyanna was saying, I looked at some of the black magic stuff on Quora, and that is that's crazy. We have a lot of people here. I'm going to kind of tie it all together like this before we hop into lesson 62 about forgiveness. Dyanna was calling us the trauma generation, right? And we look at, and yes, it's a double-edged sword. We could say our parents have allowed it to be this way, but also there is, in my opinion, I feel like this was done intentionally to us in a lot of ways, because when let's just say you take a bunch of star seeds and you take a bunch of angel seeds and you pack them into this very dense system like this. One that is, I would even go along to say the lines of an anti-human system such as this. And it will cause these traumas. It will cause these issues within us. And then what we have at this point in time is, we have what I call nihilistic atheism that's running rampant in our society. And what is the difference between, I've said this before, I'll just emphasize on it real quick. There's a difference between real atheists and there's a difference between nihilistic atheists. Real atheists just reject the organized religion's God, or reject organized religion.
Though. Isn't that agnostic? Because there's agnostic and atheist. Sorry. Oops.
No, you're all good. No, agnostic is not knowing if there is a God. So that's the definition of agnostic. Atheism, if you look at at least from what I've seen, the definition of it, it's not rejecting the notion that there could be a God, but it is rejecting organized religion. Like, it rejects.
I thought atheism was like there is no good.
Yeah, that's the kind I was.
No, so that's what I would say nihilistic atheists are. So
the nihilist. It leads to nihilism regardless. Like, there's no way around it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so you have that too, but then it's like, so through this nihilistic atheism, you have people who are starting to believe in energy without the foundation of the divine. Like,
Yeah,
yes.
And they want to strip away God, but still, and science is trying to do it themselves. They talk about the God particle. They're starting to talk about mind being able to influence stuff. They're really getting on it, except they're stripping out God completely. They're talking about how consciousness has a scientific backing, and this is amazing and breakthrough, and we'll be able to go into robots. Like, wow, talk about like exactly doing the no, because just because you're scientific is starting to figure it out does not mean there's not a God behind it. Because science is just the magic that you now explain, and magic is the science that we can't yet explain.
100% no, but you're right about doing the no. That's a perfect example with this, because too, I was even telling you guys how here in Denver they're trying to hold these power of the subconscious seminars at all of these different places, and I was actually talking with Don about this too. They are holding them at these places that are just completely surrounded by 5G and Gwen towers, which is interesting because I know some of these places, and they're stripping the divine out of it. So, I mean, and this is the thing, having that, I'll kind of like sum it up like this: having the foundation of Christ is going to allow you to traverse into these different territories such as metaphysics, mysticism, magic, things like that, and be able to understand it at a deeper level, understand how to use it responsibly at a deeper level, because you have that connection with the divine as a foundation. I mean, to me, like going into like black magic at all is like a big cosmic no, but like jumping into magic and metaphysics without having some kind of divine foundation that you have already built, you are kind of asking for it a little bit. So I completely agree with you on that. So let's bring up lesson 62 of A Course in Miracles, Forgiveness. I'm going to go over it briefly, and then I want to talk with you guys about this. The reason why I picked this one is I think all of us are still in the process of forgiving in a lot of ways. Like, we're still in this process of forgiving ourselves, forgiving others who have done harm to us or have caused trauma. And this is something I think a lot of us even still struggle with to this day. I know myself, I still have some things I need to forgive. So I'm going to bring it up real quick. We're going to go over it just briefly, and then we're going to chat about it. We're going to get your guys' thoughts on this. So let's pull it up real quick. So we got lesson 62, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. So it is your forgiveness that will bring the world of darkness to the light. It is your forgiveness that lets you recognize the light in which you see. Forgiveness is the demonstration that you are the light of the world. Through your forgiveness does the truth about yourself return to your memory. Therefore, in your forgiveness lies your salvation. Illusions about yourself and the world are one. That is why all forgiveness is a gift to yourself. Your goal is to find out who you are, having denied your identity by attacking creation and its creator. Now you are learning how to remember the truth, for this attack must be replaced by forgiveness, so that thoughts of life may replace thoughts of death. Remember that in every attack you call upon your own weakness. Well, each time you forgive, you call upon the strength of Christ in you. Do you not then begin to understand what forgiveness will do for you? It will remove all sense of weakness, strain, and fatigue from your mind. It will take away all fear and guilt and pain. It will restore the invulnerability and power God gave his son to your awareness. There we go. That's a heavy, heavy Christ line right there.
Yeah.
Let us be glad to begin and end this day by practicing today's idea and to use it as frequently as possible throughout the day. It will help to make the day as happy for you as God wants you to be. And it will help those around you as well as those who seem to be far away in space and time to share this happiness with you. As often as you can, closing your eyes if possible, say to yourself today, forgiveness is my function as the light of the world. I would fulfill my function that I may be happy. Then devote a minute or two to considering your function and let the happiness and release it will bring you. I misread that. Sorry. Let related thoughts come freely. From your heart will recognize these words, and in your mind is the awareness they are true. Should your attention wander, repeat the idea and add, I would remember this because I want to be happy. Well, man, I'm going to say very, very, very deep. And, one of the biggest things, too, I'm going to bring this up right here as well right now, is forgiveness gives us strength. Like, it does, because it gives us strength because it allows us to move forward in our lives. It allows us to sever the attachment with the pain that this person caused us. And I've had this conversation with a lot of other people before, even earlier in my show, when it comes to this, that forgiveness is more for you than it is for the other person. And that's something I really tell a lot of people who struggle with forgiveness, even myself. I still struggle with it in to a degree in ways, and especially things with myself. And, I have to tell myself that, this is for me. And ultimately, I like how it gives a mantra, almost a daily mantra for forgiveness, because it's such a huge part of our evolution. So I'm going to toss it over to Dyanna. Dyanna, why do you feel like this is such an important lesson? Because I know this is one that you sent to me and I read it, and I do feel it's super important.
Well, I love the way allowing is for forgiveness, because forgiveness is not about the other person. And I was just as much trapped in victim mentality as most. I was pretty top level. And I was victimized. It's not like it wasn't true. But I had to forgive before I actually got clarity. I had to actually have the forgiveness, but I could never forgive. And I tried. I tried all the things. I did meditations. I did things like all the things. I tried, none of it will work because you have to believe it. And it always comes down to belief in the truest of truths, which come to a place of love, frequency, and just general energy. So when you get used to how your energy feels, you can really start to see the truth of this. And that's like the book. You just feel it the whole way through. It just resonates, resonates, resonates. But for me, forgiveness, and this book will talk later and explain it over and over and over again, so you'll get it good enough. But it was from another place where I learned allowing. Just think of forgiveness as allowing, because it's an energetic process. You're just going to release, allow. Like imagine your atoms opening up and just allow it. Like, because you're in large amounts of denial, and that goes for everybody. Some people suffer at different levels. For me, I'm very like analytical, intellectual, not that I'm smart, but I'm obsessed with knowledge and facts and data, and like of my own, like in a therapeutic way where I will just overanalyze everybody and everything. And I bother those around me because of it, but I will do it to myself as well. So like when I figured this out, it was lock and key, done forever. Bam, 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 bam. So many people were instantly forgiven because I learned how to allow. And it was just, whoop, just opening up that energy body, just allow it, and then release the denial. And it automatically kind of does that, because what you'll find is not that like you can't forgive them because you're not loving, which will, that those shame thoughts will come in. What it really is that you were in denial that it ever happened. And then again, I was like, and it's in my chart that I will have a life that's a perfect example. And it's hilarious. I used to sit in my room and go like, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand. Because like a lot of us in the starseed community, like feel neurodivergent to a degree. And that's because we are made different. Because in the past, like those people would have just taken on those patterns and become those people. But we're not wired to become those people, even if we slightly did sometimes to a degree, just because patterns are patterns. But at the same time, we were wired to be like, this does not compute. So like I would often get, like I've talked before about my strict family, and I would often be getting in trouble, but I literally was like super good. And I'm not even tooting my own horn. I really was like, wow. And they even acknowledged that later and were like, oh yeah, you were great. I'm like, yeah, told you so. But it doesn't matter, because like, you have to allow that, yes, it did happen. And once I allow that it did happen, and it would, and all of a sudden the answers came to why they even did it to begin with, because I saw how I was like slightly twisted and did not understand. And then I see that they don't understand. They're stuck in their own fear spaces. They're lashing out because back then, I don't know, there was this man that you could see it still some Gen Xers let it out sometimes. And then obviously the previous generations of like, don't let that kid rule you. You better show them who's boss, teach them some respect. And they don't mean it in like a, like I'm all for conscious aligned lines, because I learned the hard way kids need them, where like parameters and stuff. There's a difference between teaching them to respect you just to respect you, like just for your earning respect. Like, no. And so kids today, that's why we're the trauma generation, not because we had it the worst, because our parents quite likely often had it worse. I know mine had it catastrophically worse. And that's just the way, God, like electricity and shit's brand new. And we don't take that into consideration with the trauma level of our parents and the stuff they had to go through, that 6 feet of snow and uphill both ways back and forth to school for like 3 hours. Like I had those stories from my dad in my day, like all the time. And it really was like a lot harder. He was made to work at 5, didn't have toys. Like there's so many things that they were dealing with, that like me not having enough toys. And like you really start to gain that perspective where yes, they still might have did what they did, but why? And some parents have extremely sinned, but why? Like my mom had that in her story, but it's like there's always a why. And usually an entity got involved on a twisted human pattern, because we have this sub layer of shadow that us starseeds can really feel, but it's our job to feel it, to allow it. And that just naturally purifies that. And then you come in with the Christ because it helps. You can really do it by yourself. I've done it. But it's so much easier with Christ. Like every time I come back, I'm like, oh my God, it's like putting your training wheels back on. Like, and I know that sounds silly, but like in a world where like we still need it because the parameters of this flesh world are still very uncomfortable. They're just, ugh. And it doesn't, honestly, the more I improve, the more obvious it is. You'd think it would get more pleasant, but it's the split. And we're the ones that will be doing the major changing, and then they will naturally change because of it.
I dig that. And I liked how you said allowing, and I definitely want to say something about that after we get to Sam. But before we get to Sam too, I want to know what dimension our parents were in that they had to walk uphill to school both ways. I don't know what dimension was that they existed in the, the 50s and the 60s, but usually if you walk uphill one way, you walk down the other way. So, but all right, Sam, let's get to you. What do you think about this passage and of course of miracles, and what has forgiveness done for you, and how has it opened you up?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a big, this is the thing with the Course in Miracles I'm finding, like the information in there, you look at it and it's like, on the surface level, it's like, oh, I can kind of see that. But then you dig into it and there's so many layers to it. That one passage, you could do a full bloody show. You could do a week show on just that when you really dig into it,
Yes,
And there's
good.
So it's trying to find the bits that kind of resonate with you and work backwards. And that's why I really like it, because it can, hit for the normies. It can hit for people that have done more work. There's just something for everybody in there. But yeah, going back to forgiveness. So the big thing for me in that was that you both touched on it. We don't forgive for other people, essentially. We forgive for ourselves. Because when we look at what forgiveness is, it's not saying, because I mean, this is the big thing with people. They're like, I'm not forgiving that person. They've done this to me. And quite rightly, as Dyanna said, it's the victim thing, isn't it? And that isn't to say that you've not been victimized, but it's all back down to choice. You can choose to be a victim. And having the power of forgiveness essentially gives you the power to create your own life and not be a victim, not to be stuck in that pattern, because you can choose to be that victim, and all you're going to do is bring more situations into your life that are going to just repeat that. And then you look at, what actually is forgiveness? It's a dissolving of resistance. Again, going back into that allowing. Because if you have got something that you're holding within you, you're not in flow. It's an obstruction to the way that you're moving through your life. And that's when it solidifies and it becomes disease or disease, because we're uneasy in our own bodies. We've created this friction because there's something there to look at. And that's the whole nature of healing. So when they say that forgiveness is the light, what that's actually doing is illuminating the places within us where we've got trauma, It's a literal torch. It's saying, I feel this act, I feel victimized, I feel I've been wronged, I feel I've been whatever, X, Y, and Z, insert whatever shit's happened to you. And it's saying, right, why do I feel like that? Where am I holding that within me? Because essentially we're all the same fucking person, really. I mean, we know we're expressions of it, but we're all emanations of God. And one person has got just as much right to have their experience as we have. And a lot of the time, like when you dig into things, like on a very surface level, the reason that we're angry with people is because we're looking at them through like a past lens. We're looking at them through like this distortion, and we're seeing what they're doing to us. And it's actually nothing to do with us in the end. How people are living their lives is a reflection of what's going on internally inside them. And it's a lesson in not taking things personally, which I go on about all the time. And I'm trying to obviously live that myself. It's not always easy, don't get me wrong. But when people do things, it's looking at them and having compassion. And that's what it comes down to. Forgiveness is compassion. If you're forgiving yourself, it's like the ultimate act of self-compassion, because you're saying, do you know what? I am an imperfect expression of God. I am an imperfect emanation of the divine, but I'm having this experience to move back into perfection. And being in forgiveness is allowing that, because you're going through your process. And then when you realize that other people are also going through their process, you're like, do you know what? It's all right. They're just doing what they need to do to get back to God. It's not even about me, And that opens your life up, because you're choosing not to be a victim. You're saying whatever they do is their problem. I'm not saying that you need to sit and let somebody punch you in the face, as I always go back to this, but it's literally saying, I'm not going to hold it against you. I'm not going to cause a resistance between me and you. I'm going to let you make your own path. I'm going to let you make your own choices. And I'm not going to take your shit, your karma, going back to, to those fundamental principles as my own crap. So you're free. And that's what it is. Forgiveness is freedom.
So, and I love what you
The book
both
says
said.
that. You keep quoting the book. You keep quoting the book. Sorry, I want to say that.
No,
I've not even properly read it, but full disclaimer. Yeah.
It's teaching about you getting your freedom. So yeah, sorry, go ahead.
You're channeling it, Sam. Look at you. Hell yeah. I'm going to start with this quote. This actually is a Christian quote, but forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. And when, and I'm going to kind of go over this. So forgiveness brings understanding, in parentheses, allowing. So think of it this way. When you find the forgiveness within yourself, to forgive either yourself or others for what has happened, what ends up happening is, you remember that 600-pound backpack I told you that a lot of people are just walking around? Well, when you do that, a little bit of weight drops out of that 600-pound backpack. And when that little bit of weight drops out of that backpack, you ascend just a little bit. You pop up into a new frequency layer and you get a new perspective on the situation as a whole. And through that comes an understanding, just like how Sam was saying, just what Dyanna was saying, it's understanding that they're going through it too. They're trying to find their way back to God. Albeit we might not agree with the way that they're going about it. But of course, everybody is allowed to have their own journey. So ultimately, imagine every time that you find forgiveness in yourself, even for yourself and things that you have done. Imagine more weight just dropping out of that backpack, off of your shoulders. And you begin to feel lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. And you get to the point where it's like, again, like what even Sam was saying, you learn not to even take it at a personal level anymore. You begin to gain a broader understanding of the nature of all of this through forgiveness. So that's just kind of one thing I want to add too, because like I was saying at the beginning of the show, like, we can look at, everybody wants to talk about conspiracies all day long, everybody's okay with talking about all the different alien races there are, everybody's okay with talking about the esoteric and occult concepts. But when you get down to the dirty work, and it's not even really dirty. Yes, it's difficult. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. It's not for the faint-hearted, and I can understand that. But when you get down to, talking about actually doing the work, you get crickets. It's like you get silence, or you get people, they start to go, I'm going to turn away and I'm going to start walking over here to the other conversation about the conspiracies. But ultimately, what this book is showing, what these two women are saying, and myself, is every time you do this work, you're pushing yourself further into alignment. You're pushing yourself further in your spiritual evolution. This is what makes or breaks it. And I know you two feel the same way about that. So kind of let's dive into that. This is what makes or breaks it a lot of the time, is actually going forth and removing this weight out of our backpack so we can ascend closer to God. What are you guys' thoughts?
Well, yeah, but that's what the whole course is for. Absolutely. Like every little step in is meticulously and perfectly designed. Like people are like, what should I do? How should I start? Where should I go? This has it like specifically laid out, because the way I studied, because Course in Miracles wasn't one of my first books. I would have been much better off if it was. It was one of my later books. I ping-ponged around all kinds of things, including I'd already read the Bible. I tried, like sat down with the whole thing. Mostly, obviously, not the begots and stuff, but like I was filled with like how much it was just witchcraft. And then the Jesus stuff was good, but then it's like clearly magic is true. Like and not just like a subsection of true. It is the totality of truth itself. But like, there can be truths and then there can be truths. And for this, like, if you're looking to lessen the load of your life and empty out that backpack, because literally you're lessening your density, quite literally. Like, your frequency is raising, which means your density is shrinking. That's why the book talks about physical flesh being a distortion. And like, Stephen keeps having this, I mentioned it during church, but he keeps having this inclination, which like, it's like, I know, but I think the fact that it's hitting Stephen over and over and over, that usually means like they're telling him, I think, it's coming, it's happening. It was always possible, and it's been happening to a point, but we're really going to start to see things shift. And I think that'll be parkouring. Parkouring wasn't a thing before. Don't you think parkour might be a thing because of the raise of density? You know, like, it's bringing us back to that naturalistic, more fae-like existence where we just were one with the elements and of nature. So we're going to keep raising in that density because we are not physical. We are just a clump of atoms. And just like allowing how you can space out those atoms to release that 600-pound backpack, keep doing that. And that just releases your density layers. It releases your baggage. And if you don't know how to tap into that energetic space, that's fine. That's what the book's for. Go through it day by day by day, because once it starts to break those patterns, those ego excuses of why you can't do stuff, I gotta work, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. Yeah, that's why God invented audiobooks. Just throw it in and listen to it. If you can't get and the book is free, so you can't use money either. I made the shape of it today, but I didn't actually put the files in. But it's on my Transcending Ascension website now, but I'm putting it into the Church of Christ website. So you can just go and click and get the book, download it in. So if you want to put it in your Kindle or whatever, I have it in my book app for Apple. It goes right in there, easy peasies. And but the website itself has the book, and the audiobooks are free on my website, and I'll put it in the other one. There's a better audiobook on YouTube, because Sam and I told her, like, it's awful, but she'd already got it and I'd already got it too. Like, the audiobook of A Course in Miracles on Audible is horrendous, because I hadn't originally, I read the book, so this is my first time trying to find an audiobook, so I'm going back through it. Oh my God, the guy's accent. I'm sorry, I can't forgive. No, I forgive you, but I can't listen to it. I can't go past it. So I found a good one on YouTube that's on the website, that his voice is just nice, and you need a good voice. Sound matters. And then, yeah, just immerse yourself, and this book does it for you. Like, because trust me, I did so many things before. I was already well along my path. If I hadn't known about this book, and I've read so many testimonies, and so it's just one of the ones that, like, it actually changes your life, because you can read a law of one and it has all the answers, but it doesn't walk you through it the way A Course in Miracles does. And same with like the Power of Now, but this one is the one. So if you want that 600-pound backpack off, and you don't want to spend like over a decade on research like I have and Stephen has, and Sam being born into this world with her natural intuition, if you feel like, oh, I don't have what it takes, I can't do it, I don't have the time, then just read this one book and you're done. You're ascending, you're good.
I dig it. Sam, let's talk about the making or the breaking of the work, and how this book can help us, at least from what you've read from it.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been taking a few notes, because I've got the thing is, it's just like a light bulb moment every time you hear something, isn't it? It sparks things off, because it's all interconnected. So, I mean, the big thing is you're called to it, just like any practice, because that's what it essentially is. And I really love what Dyanna was saying, like, it is literally, you just show up, you do it every day. It's a really short exercise. Like, one of them, like you said, is nothing's real, basically. That's one of the first ones. And you just sit for a couple of minutes, a couple of times a day. That's all it's asking you to do. Even if you just did the workbook, that's still going to have a profound effect on your life. And you show up and you do it every fucking day. It's the same as any practice, like you go to the gym, Stephen, don't you? You get up every day, you get up at like a ridiculous hour in the morning, to be honest. I don't do it every day, but you get up, you're dedicated, because that's what you do. That's part of your practice. You want to strengthen your body. And this is just, it's the same sort of thing. It's like the metaphysical version of the gym for your spirituality. It's exercises for the soul. And that, if you look at it like that, so you get up every day, you give yourself And it, like I said, you could be busy, but you can do it on the bus to work. You could do it when you're driving, even if you've read it. You can, if it's on the audio, it's literally, they're so short. There's no excuses. If you're called, answer it, you know. But that said, it will find you when you are ready. You might not be ready to kind of handle it. Like I said, it had been in my audiobook thing for bloody ages, and I'd not, you know, it just wasn't the time. And then it's kind of come into alignment, and Dyanna and I were laughing about it because we were like, oh, I want to start a book group. And we talked about like the books we were gonna, and we were like Power of Now, Kabbalion, and then Course in Miracles. And we were like, Course in Miracles is a bit big. Maybe we should just do the Course in Miracles. And she's like, I've already done it. Like, I've already started it. And it was like, and then even in itself, that's a miracle. That's how simple it is.
And Kylie being separate, like that was, it was sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine. It excites you, and it reignites that passion for life. And that's one of the byproducts of doing something like this. But yeah, it's just another form of spiritual practice. And this isn't saying that you've got to do it if you feel inclined. There's lots of other things you can do, you know. But if you are wanting something to change your life, I've spoken to lots of different people now that have done this, and it has literally changed their fucking lives. And I'm swearing now because I really believe in this. But it's just starting. It's taking that first step. That's all it is. And like, or what have you got? Ask yourself, what have you got to lose? It's the same if you like change your diet. If you decide you're going to like, Stephen, just have eggs and avocado for breakfast, and it's like, yeah, okay. All right then, it is that easy. All right then. So that's part of Steve's like training. Just have eggs and avocados. I'm just start there. But it's true. It's true. Just making one tiny change is going to revolutionize your life. But you've made a commitment to God. You've made a commitment to yourself because you are good. And when you do that and you start to clear the distortions, like Steve was on about that backpack, what's actually going to happen is we are a collective species. We're all plugged into those archetypes. We're all in this collective consciousness. It's a big, huge soup we're all swimming. And basically, that's what the frequency is. It's a bandwidth of frequency that humanity exists within. And every time one of us lets a bit of something go, the whole collective starts to rise. So you're not just doing it for yourself. I'm not putting any pressure on you. But this is the same with healing. When you start to let stuff go, we are all in this together, and we are all making the change, and we all rise together.
I completely agree, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, like we've talked about before many a times too, like when you start taking those small steps, the divine sees that, you know, and this is the thing. Yeah, I've heard this so much by people who denounce, you know, the existence of the divine. They're all like, well, you know, I've prayed to God, but he doesn't do anything. Or things like that. Or I hear this thing I'm like, well, I said, did you do anything to meet God halfway? And a lot of the times they're going to say no. And I'm like, well, like you have to, intention is key in this. Like you can sit there and scream at a wall for weeks and wanting the wall to like, hey, wall, like you're treating it like God, like I need this in my life. I need to get better at this, or I need this, and just sit there and do nothing. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm like, okay, well, you're not reaching your hand out, man. You know, you have to reach your hand out. That's at least what we've all come to find. That's how it works, you know? And so this is even just starting this book, or even starting a spiritual practice in general, is reaching your hand out. You know, it's about forming that energetic reciprocation between you and the all. It's about ingraining that frequency into your being. So when you cast that intention and that frequency out forth into your creation itself, the divine recognizes that and goes, okay, I see this. It's time. So ultimately, yes, Sam, I completely agree. I love what you said. And this is the thing I want to get into a little bit before we wind down. So you guys heard me at the beginning of the show. I call this, at least for this batch of humanity, a very unknown, uncharted, and strange territory that we're entering into. Of course, I'm sure other batches of humanity have been there and they have gone through this, but at least for our remembering at this point, we're in a very interesting place. We understand and we see the playing field that's currently laid out before us. And yes, we are winning, but that doesn't mean there aren't a lot of obstacles and a lot of funkiness and a lot of strangeness on this playing field that we're coming up on and we are going to experience. And I feel like this book can help us ground ourselves for what is to come and give us a strong foundation to be able to handle all of the weirdness, the wackiness, and the silliness. Yes, Don, I agree. When you see the universe give favor, thank it and welcome more. Totally. But I feel like this book, and this is where I agree with the both of you, especially Dyanna on this, this can be a navigation guide for this new age, because we've talked about how fundamentalism is on its way out. What we're getting into is more of this blue collar spirituality, this grassroots spirituality, embodying the principles into our lives, living the principles. So I feel like this can be a guide, for a foundation for this new age, because even though it has a foundation in Christ, it's not fundamentalist. It's not holding the fundamentalism of the Piscean age in it. It's allowing it to be open. It's allowing the subjective expansion of the individual's spiritual truth, what they might see as their truth. And this is the one thing I absolutely love about it, is because it allows for that expansion. So I want to get you two's take on this. Do you feel like this could be a guidebook for us? You guys have heard me talk about how we need to expand on the spiritualities of old. You guys probably are sick of me saying it, but this is a way we can do that. This is a way. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Sam, you want to go ahead?
No, you go for it. And I want to listen to what you've got to say because you're always so insightful.
What's funny, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to giggle while you were talking, but you had the thing about the wall, and you're like, you can't just talk to the wall, and that's not gonna. I told you about it. I think I was in such a connected state from thanks to this book. It's just been continuous since I've been back in it, because it just came with a new layer when I went back in. I was talking to the curtains. I was legit, and without psychedelics. I was just standing there because it was about to get in bed, and my curtains are pure white, and they have they're nice. And they just kind of were shimmering in the moonlight. And next thing you know, because I get in these kind of guide talks, but the curtain, I was actually having a discussion with the curtains, which actually would happen all the time when I would take shrooms back in the day, that I would talk to objects. That was the thing. And then I found myself doing it. I'm like, but this is so it was I'm having more sober DMT moments. And that's that's going to be what we do when we shift, because it's going to be our hormones coming online in that DMT. And this book is just a constant drip of that. And the repeated, constantly saying the book, because the path is a huge book. So to teach you the concepts in the book, I've already taught you. I've already talked about it. I've already explained it. But the thing is I'm just me. I have an open throat and I don't make a lot of sense. You know what I mean? I've lived it out, played it out in my life. That's why I always giving my own examples. It's not because I want to tell everyone about my life. I actually don't. I'm very secretive. But I'm really not good at to describe the energetic effects of what all this means. You could be yeah, because there's tons of gurus and channeling their higher beings and telling you everything's so perfect. Yeah, well, the proof is in the pudding, and we don't see these people behind the screen. That's why I try to bring you the behind the screen and tell you the ridiculousness and how it actually played out. I'm not telling you the galactics told me this energy is coming down, so this is what it's going to mean. No, you get waves. You actually do. You don't need to call it the galactic anything. You get waves. Right now, that Pluto thing, it's making everyone go crazy. And especially like if you're not aware of your emotions, if you don't know what's going on, what's clogging up the gunk, right? That's a lot of what Ascension's been this whole time. And there's so many things like forgiveness, like purity, and not because it is sinning, but what does sin mean? Mistake. And what is sin really doing is betraying the self. So all the ways, and that's one of the biggest things I used to do with myself, is I would betray myself just because I was like people pleasing and just down a rabbit hole of darkness and nihilism because, woe is me. And the world is worse now. Thank God I woke up before, because it looks much worse now. So I can only imagine how scared people are today. But like, we have been handed something, and I've already taught all the things in it. So I think it's time. I don't like to repeat myself. And this book says it so much better than I do. It touches everything in that visceral, like primordial, but also like higher light part where it just, like, I shake when I read it. And that just means something. And everything is made so clear. And I see how it's played out in my life. So likewise, you can read this and save yourself a lot of painful landmines and just ascend yourself cleaner and purer, because it's just for your own benefit. Like Sam was saying, and the book says it many times, it's your own freedom. This book holds your freedom.
Absolutely, man. I dig it. And Sam, what about you? Do you feel like this could potentially be a foundational guide for this new age?
I think that's exactly what it is. And I loved what Dyanna was saying, like all of it was great. Although I did giggle about the curtains. Although I do know what you mean.
I had to giggle about but I channeled the 15th density Ashtar command, and they told me, but go ahead, Sam, where you said.
God, it's Donald Trump a channel, bloody hell. He's very talented,
Oh
isn't
no,
he?
don't make him come on, Sam. You know what happens when he comes on. Don't do it.
Yeah, he talks about we're not even going to say that, actually. We'll save that for later. Yeah. Right, yeah. So that's exactly what it is. It is perfectly put. It's a guide to ascension. That's the top and bottom of it. It's building on the fundamental principles, like we talked before, like these universal laws, the hermetics, and it's giving you the practical guide on how to basically navigate ascension. It's giving you the tools for introspection. It's giving you the explanation of why. It's giving you things to look at. It's giving you the reasons why you need to connect to God. It's basically telling you that you are God, that you are love. And that's the same thing. That's all God is. God is love. God is like love in motion. And we look at creativity. We look at orgasm. We look at all that kind of stuff. It's just creativity. And it's just giving you the tools to move through life with ease when you start to like look at yourself. And I think tying it back into the thing which was healing, it's allowing you, it's giving you a framework to do your own healing. Because I mean, when I first started properly waking up about probably 6 years ago, I was like, what's shadow work? What is this shadow work? And people would talk about it online, and I'd ask them and I'd go, you've been doing shadow work? Well, how do you do that? And they couldn't tell me. And you see this so many times. People talk about these lovely concepts, and then when you ask them to break it down, got no fucking idea. They don't know. And that's what it's doing. It's basically giving you the why. It's giving you the how. And if you want to practice that, and you want to do that as a form of practice, like I said, there's lots of different other ones, it will allow you to navigate ascension so much easier, because we're all on this roller coaster, and we all know life is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. It's meant to challenge us. It's meant to make us think. It's meant to make us grow. It's soul evolution. But this is like a cheat guide. It's amazing. That's essentially what it is. It's like the cheat's guide to ascension.
I love it. No, and I completely agree. And that's why I like it, man, because and I've started my first 30 days. I'm going in. I'm all in on this, because yes, and this is why, because like I was saying before I even asked the question, I was telling you guys, we need to expand upon the spiritualities of old for this new age. All right. We're leaving fundamentalism behind. We're embodying more. This isn't logistics and the hyperfixation on them. It's about the raw divine spark. That's what we're moving into at this point in time. We can circumambulate the freaking mountain up 333 times every day and still go the old way, or we can bring heaven to earth. You know, we can channel that here by truly embodying the divine spark. And that's where we're at. We're in this place now. And this is the expansion to me, because actually, no, this would be the foundation for this age that will allow further expansion into the age. Because like I was saying, it's not tying you down with these fundamentalist concepts. It gives you this foundation of Christ to work with, to build upon. And it is up to the subjective individual to expand upon it in their own way. You know, and of course, like, we all have our own way. Like, even though we all sit here and we agree on a lot of things, don't get me wrong, but is Sam getting up at 2 a.m. and freaking throwing herself into a cold shower? No, but she has her own way of doing it. Like, you know what I mean? That works for her. And
Is that what you
with,
do? Do you get up at 2 a.m. and have a cold shower?
I haven't in a while, I'm not gonna lie. But
I
do.
think you're a secret masochist. I'm not gonna lie, that's fucking ridiculous.
I do get up at 3 a.m. though every day. That I do. And I go train and do my kriyas and stuff. That's my Eastern way about me. Okay. I'm very Eastern in that way, where it's like, you know, I do it like almost the Shaolin monk way. But of course, we all have our own way, like, you know, and that's what's beautiful about this. And this book allows us to expand in our own way. It's not like this strict set of rules and guidelines that we see from all of these spiritualities and the religions of old. It gives us a core foundation in Christ and the divine. It works on the core concepts that are ultimately going to better us, get that 600-pound backpack off our backs, so we can walk through this existence radiating that joy, radiating that happiness, that divine love that is meant to be brought here. And we can help spread it and share it with everybody else in this way too, without, kind of beating a horse dead. Like I said, the fundamentalist mindset, it allows everybody to get the foundation that they need, and allows them to expand in the way that works for them. And to me, it's almost kind of perfect. I'm not gonna lie, especially from what I've read from it so far. I'm really excited to start these 30 days. I'm gonna say that for sure. Well, you two, this was an awesome show. I was really happy to sit down with the both of you tonight and talk about this. And of course, I have Dyanna's. I have her transcendingascension.com website. I have her X page, and I have her YouTube in both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions for the videos. And I have Sam's X page and the Metaphysical Phat podcast link on both the Rumble and the YouTube descriptions. You guys want to do me the hugest favor? Go follow them, go give them a like, and go give them a subscribe tonight. And of course, Kirsten, the other half of the Metaphysical Phat, was in the chat tonight too. And other than that, guys, with the last few moments that we have, if you have anything aside from this that you're working on, or anywhere else anybody can find you, why don't you let them know now?
No, that's it. You did it all.
That's it. I did it. I always try to do right by you guys, and you know that. So I wanted to have everything in there so everybody can find you. What about you, Sam? Anything else?
Yeah,
I
just shit post an X, but I mean, don't expect just spiritual stuff on there, because I took absolutely.
Everyone pressure her to make her own YouTube.
Oh yeah. If you go on, so.
Well, what does Nick say? If you can't handle me at my shit posting, you don't deserve my schizo posting. So
absolutely. Words of wisdom right there.
So for sure, guys, for sure. Well, guys, if there's anything you want to hear from me before the end of this show, I definitely do the first 30 days. Okay, do it. All right, it's 30 days of your life.
I would do more than that though, so you can get to the hopeful part. Otherwise,
absolutely. Of course.
Hope.
of course, do more than that, but
at least 40.
At least exactly. Well, you know the significance of the significance of the 40 days and the 40 nights. It rings true. It rings true in Kriya Yoga, it rings true in Buddhism, it rings true in Christianity. The 40 is thing. So yeah, do the 40 days. Let's start off with the 40. And guys, like we all talked about here tonight, like ultimately you want to get to that next level in your consciousness, in your state of being, in your state of mind, and in your heart. Healing is the way to do it. And, you know, I hope one day everybody doesn't shy away from it anymore. You know, like everybody wants to talk about the fun stuff, but they don't want to get down and do the real stuff. And this will shift. I have a feeling it is, because even as Dyanna was saying, there are more people starting to wake up, and not all of them are unafraid about it. And this is where we meet them halfway and we extend our hands to help them. But other than that, guys, go give these two ladies a follow for me. I will be back next week, of course, same time, same place. We'll be doing it all again. And of course, you know what we say at the end of BG-Cast. And of course, if you two can just hang out for a little bit after the show's over, but you know what we say: stay safe, stay free, have that personal agency and that personal sovereignty. And I don't know how many times I got to say it, but quit being like Elon Musk and stay away from Japanese grok and the Japanese sex robots. I don't know how many times. It's just getting worse, but we'll leave it to the wind on that. Take care, everybody.
Collectively together, you were born to rotate with the crowd. You were born to sync with the sacred spiral. The Hercules stream is proof. The cosmos hummus the divergent. BG-Cast brings us that Hercules energy. It's here to save the day. You won't stay lost in the dark. Here is your shot with BG-Cast beside you. Can we rise alone?